Hi, I'm Meriden Zerner, dietitian with the Cooper Clinic, and I think we all know this. You've had those moments where you've said, gosh, I could go for some chocolate. I'm really craving some cheesecake. I really think I'm craving that chicken and cheese nachos with jalapenos and extra cheese. But when does a craving become a food addiction? Well, we don't really know yet, but there's a lot of research being done right now, specifically out of Yale University, that could be worthy of your consideration. There's a lot more to cravings or even to food addictions than you might think. It's not simply just the matter of willpower. It's really very much about what's going on in our brain chemistry. So there's the dopamine pathway in the brain, which is really the focal point now with some of the research. And knowing that, is it that we were born with maybe less dopamine? That's a possibility. Are we born with maybe an insensitivity? Or really the idea that this neurotransmitter in the brain, this dopamine, could be dampened somewhat, usually through highly palatable foods. So in essence, when we overeat highly palatable foods, these are things that are really high fat, really high sugar, really high salt, we kind of dampen this dopamine response. The dopamine response in the brain is about reward and pleasure. So really, we get into a situation where when we continue to overeat these really tasty foods, we're not getting the same response. So we eat more and more and more, trying to achieve that same sort of high, if you will, through food. So this is what they're looking at in terms of the research, and they have a lot of good information looking at rat studies. One in particular I thought was interesting. They had to put the rats in a state of deprivation to really get them to the point that they would overeat. And to me, that sounds exactly like what we do as human beings when we're dieting. You know, very, very limited calories, a sense of deprivation, a sense of sort of, oh my gosh, I'm under eating, I'm starving. And then they even had these poor little rats, in essence, go for 4 hours without eating at the beginning of the day, which is like us missing breakfast. Then they gave them all kinds of tasty, palatable foods, sugar foods and things like that. They massively overate, and off we went, and we had this cycle that is now repeated and repeated. This is where we're getting this crossover into the idea of food addiction. If it's something that you are curious about, this is where you go see some of the specialists in brain chemistry. You go see the physician, the neurologist. You go see the psychiatrist who can help with even maybe medications or different therapies that can facilitate better control. There's even a new book out now by Dr. Pam Peeke looking at a recovery plan, if you will, for overeating and addiction. And it's just one of many. But just know it is so much more than willpower. It is so much more than simply pushing the plate away. So when we get into these habits, these cravings that cross over into food addiction, if you will, we sometimes need a whole lot more help than simply monitoring portion size and working with the concept of moderation. So with that in mind, think about what would make the most sense for you. Maybe seek out a dietitian, again, a physician or a psychiatrist, to see about putting all those pieces together to achieve a more peaceful, nourishing relationship with food.